I'm here with Ryan Waste to talk about Bat, Under the Crooked Claw, out May 17th on Nuclear Blast. Thank you very much for taking the time to talk about the record, the band, and maybe we'll talk a little bit about your dog.
Yeah, my dog wants the center stage right here. This is Willow.
It seems super chilled, super
She's
chilled.
chilling. Yeah, she's like, she knew we were doing interviews, so she just jumped right. She literally just got on my lap as soon as I sat down.
Dude, I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
I'm a big animal lover, so I have 5 birds myself at home. So
Oh,
uh,
right on. Well, you can direct questions to her if you want.
yeah, I'm not passing judgment on you sitting there with your dog. I see her raising her hand already.
Yeah.
Uh, So let me start off by asking you this. 8 years between the records, is there a special reason behind it besides the fact that you're a busy guy with a busy schedule?
That would be the first reason. I mean, we did an EP in between in 2019 called Ecstasy, but I mean, for full lengths, yeah, it has been. It's crazy when you put it like that. 8 years, man. We did a lineup change too. You know, Felix stopped playing with us in about 2017, 2018, even though that record came out with him on it. So yeah, I mean, a lot of touring. Like I'm a busy guy, always on the road, and it took the pandemic to actually give me time with Nick and Chris to write this record. So I feel like the world stopping is the only reason we pulled it off, you know, with just my touring schedule on top of that.
Was it easy to get back on the saddle with Nick, specifically with Nick, and working on something
Oh
different?
yeah. Yeah, I mean we were excited. It's like we never had time. So it's like, oh, we have time. Let's write an album. You know, I mean, we never even sat in a room with Felix before because he was living in Texas. And so just to have Chris in the room writing songs as a three-piece, like they just flowed out. It was like one after the next. I'd go home and write lyrics that night. I mean, it was like palpable, the inspiration.
When it comes to the creative process behind Bat, and for example, the creative process behind Municipal Waste, where do you see the biggest differences?
I mean, it's really similar. You know, it's really organic. Like we all just get in a room and write. You know, sometimes we'll come prepared with riffs, but with Bad, it's like, okay, what kind of song do we want to do? And we can just go, let's do this. I mean, the first songs were really punk rock sounding with Chris, and we're like, oh man, we got to write some heavier stuff. And so we'd really just pick and chose as you know, heavy metal fans and fans of just hardcore and punk too. Like it's just about coagulating all that together and kind of creating what we're missing to fill out the album's dynamics. Really, I mean, it was exciting to do. I mean, the ideas were nonstop.
No, you mentioned a bunch of different genres. I see them all really well represented on this record. I mean, there's a lot of just rock. There's a lot of like Motorhead in it as well. But I also picked up on some dark elements. I mean, it's not a blackened record. I don't want anybody to
No, and I
get
never use
that
that
idea.
word. That's people put too many subgenres on stuff. It's rock and roll, it's heavy metal, it's speed metal. I like to be a band where you can't really put your finger on what style it is, rather than like saying we're doing a lot of different styles. I just wanted to be a band like, you know, like the Brats, like pre Merciful Fate. Like, man, is this like a rock and roll band? Is this a heavy metal band? It's like just listen to it, man. It's got all the influences, you know, thrown together, but somehow it works. You know, that's kind of I want punk rockers and heavy metal heads alike to get into it, and I think that's the thing with Motorhead. That's the ultimate example of a band that just gets accepted on all levels. And you know, what's not to like about Motorhead?
I know, and when I was listening to the album, I mean, the riffs are there. So if that's what's going to bring you in, they're there. I thought your vocals on this album were outstanding. I like the
Thank you.
separation that exists between the sound and the vocal, so it gives a little bit more depth to the overall record. So when it's that driven, you do need some depth, and that does that. And then the bass, holy shit! Like, no, nobody's skimping on the bass on this album.
Well, I'm the bass player, so you know, I definitely treat it as a rhythm guitar because we're a three piece. So that's why I mean I champion the bass. I like loud bass. It's not just because it's me. Like I like, you know, the mixes of Black Sabbath and Scorpions and old 70s records where the bass is a big component. So I wanted that to kind of shine through. And that's what we sound like live because when Nick goes into a guitar solo, I'm the only one there holding it down. So it's distorted and it has to fill out the rest of the sound. So I mean, we wanted to just emulate what we sound like live, and You know, it's funny, like the video got mixed with the bass even louder, like the Right for Exorcism video, and everyone's like, man, the bass is so loud. I was like, that's even louder than I wanted it, man. I think when they added the intro on it, they just kind of beefed it up to be cinematic, and it just carried through the track. And I was like, but people were like, man, that's like how a bass player would mix the record, and I'm not mad about it. Or, you know, you read some of the comments. So I'm not mad. You know, you can hear I'm not doing anything crazy on that song, but it's just nasty, you know?
No, I think depending on what sound you're putting together, depending on the record, then you want different things out of the bass. For an album like this, I mean, the guitars are super driven. The riffage on this album really pushes the guitars forward, and that kind of thins out the sound, in my opinion. So you coming in with a beefer bass helps create some substance, and it's going to definitely help you live because when he's doing the solos, there's no
Exactly.
secondary
It's
guitar
just
doing the
exactly.
melody behind it.
And that's exactly what I meant. So you get that. That's cool.
Now, the record is compact, driven. Is that just the style of the sound, the style of the band being represented in the overall tracking listing? Because you got 35 minutes, you blink and the record is done.
I mean, wasn't Rain and Blood about that long too? And it's just straight
And
through. I mean,
for me, that's the perfect length, to be honest.
so that's it to me too. And I my attention span doesn't last more than like 45, if even if I'm watching a band that I love, you know, or if I'm playing a set, you know, I think 45 live is good. 35, that's what the record is. Yeah, I didn't want to, there's no filler. I mean, you know, in my mind, it's just straight through. And why write some stuff that's unnecessary? You know, it's just meat and potatoes.
I love that about the record because it's an album that when you get to the end of it, you don't feel like you feel satisfied, but you feel like you can go back for seconds. So it has great
That's
playability. You can go back to the beginning.
man, well that our we did our job then. That's what I want to hear.
I think I heard the album. I got it yesterday, and I think I've heard it over 10 times because I was
Oh
driving.
wow.
I was driving to a show, and it was an hour and a half drive. So
That's
so
three
I
times.
listened to the album 3 times either
Yeah,
way.
yeah.
So, but that is the playability of the album. If the album goes a little bit longer than that, then it starts to sound repetitive. Do you agree? Like for this
I
stuff.
totally agree. I mean, I mean, there was a method to that madness too. And I mean, you're saying everything that I want to hear because, you know, I don't know how many people have heard this at this point. We've been waiting for 2 years for people to listen to it. So the fact that it just went out to the press it's amazing to hear the feedback for the first time. That you're like the third person I've spoken with about it. And it seems
I
like you
have
know your stuff.
I have no negatives. Like there's
Man,
nothing I mean nothing I can point out on this album that I'm like, if it was me and I knew what I was doing, I would have done it differently. No, like
wow.
this is exactly what I want. And I have to ask you this because there's a lot of bands doing this style of sound. I've heard, I'm not going to mention the names, but I've heard some new recent records that have come out on other labels. And I felt that those records fell short because they were not catchy. They didn't have great hooks. The riffs were there, but it didn't feel memorable to me. It felt like everything was just kind of slapped together. When I'm listening to this Bat record, man, it's super hooky, super catchy. And when it's not hooky and catchy vocally, is musically with the riffs. How important for a band that has the speed metal sound to be hooky, to be catchy, to be able to separate themselves with those two paradigms, if you will.
For me, it's just rock and roll structure. You know, I have a chorus in every song. You're going to hear it at least 2 times, if not 3 times, maybe without the vocals. And so there's a formula to it. You know, I try not to overdo it, but I mean, when I want people to, I want it to be memorable. You know, when you hear the chorus, you either want to sing it or you can remember it for the next time. And yeah, and then the verses is bridge and then Nick's guitar solos, you know, I mean, that's when I'm not singing, he's shredding a solo out, you know, and it's just driving stuff. It's the kind of stuff I want to hear. So we just lay it down like that.
On the side of the guitar solos, I felt that's probably the only moment where the guitars have a little bit more clarity as far as the production on the mix is concerned. Is that on purpose to kind of really
Yeah. Well, I
separate
mean,
them from the
I
song?
feel like we want to keep that raw sound, you know. I don't like a lot of modern production. I like, you know, more like 70s rock production where it's just coming out of amps, it's distorted because it's loud. I mean, we recorded them loud, so I mean that's going to be where you're getting that, you know, rawness that we want. You know, I don't want it to be pretty. Like the only time there's melody is it's in a solo, and I mean, and those are going a million miles an hour. So I don't even know if you want to call that melody, but it's Bat's a fucking nasty band, man. It's not supposed to be pretty.
Working with Nick on Bat, the friendship and the relationship that you guys have, does that help
Oh
Bat be
man, we're
successful?
best friends. I mean, and Chris too. Like Chris, a power trio, you know, when it's just three guys, you know, if you're not getting along, it's going to show. And we get along famously, man. I mean, we have so much fun on the road. You know, it's and you know, municipal waste is the same way. We get all along great. We're all great friends, you know. And to me, that's just as important as writing music as people's personalities and friendships, because you're on the road in close quarters with no privacy, and you're spending more time with these people than your family or your relationships or your loved ones. You spend more time with these guys on the road, and you gotta be best friends, man. I mean, if you're not, that's what breaks bands up.
Was it as much fun for you guys to record this record as it was for me to listen to it?
Recording's fun when you're done. You know, I mean, I sit through every aspect of it, through everyone's parts, and you know, I take my time, and I actually, you know, I guess it's kind of producing in a way, but it is fun for me because it's rewarding. But what's fun is talking to you about it now that it's finished. That's what's fun for me.
Now, putting this album out, it comes out May 17th. Does that mean you guys going to hit the road and support this record?
Yeah, but check it out. And I did interviews yesterday, and I forgot to plug this whole tour, which is the whole purpose of this. So we're going out with Necrot, the Oakland, California death metal band, from June 5th to June 27th. We're doing a leg of the US. We got about 4 shows on the way out because we're East Coast band traveling to the West Coast. So we're gonna play 4 headlining gigs on the way out. I think it's St. Louis, Omaha, Denver, Salt Lake City. Then it starts in California. All these dates are online if you go to like necrot.com or
I'll put
go
it in
out.
the description of the video so people
Yeah,
can check it
yeah,
out.
we'll get a make sure there's a link, and then yeah, then I head to Australia with Municipal Waste. That's the only reason I can't do the full tour. So it's wall to wall this year for me, man. I mean, we just were in South America with Bat and Exciter. So I just got back from a South American tour, which was incredible. First time for Bat down there. So I mean, we plan to hit the ground running with this record. So yeah, so May 17th it comes out, and then May 29th our tour starts in the US.
Once you're back from Australia, do you plan on picking up where you left off and doing some more dates?
Yeah, we got we're playing like Muddy Roots, which is a festival in Tennessee with Bat. We got a handful of shows that aren't announced yet, but I mean, I plan to pack the whole year between the two bands.
Well, we've talked about the sound, we talked about the bass, but we haven't talked about your vocals.
Do it.
How do you approach it? The lyrics, vocals, when it comes to these tracks?
Well, some of the concepts I'll just be sitting on for a while. Like I'll have a song title, you know, or and a lot of these songs I was so excited to write them during the pandemic. Like we'd write the music in the rehearsal space, and I'd go home and write lyrics that night. Like you know, I was just inspired, man. I mean, that's what's fun for me. I like creative writing. You know, I wrote a heavy metal horror script. I'm a big fan of just writing in general and storytelling. So actually lyrics are easier for me to write than riffs, like if you believe it or not, man. Like I could sit here and write forever.
Do
um
you so the lyrics come first in some cases before
so
you even have the...
maybe in like 2 or 3 songs for Bat. Like Ritual Fool was a song I wrote lyrics before we wrote music to. I'll have ideas. There's definitely something on the record, I can't think of it right now, that I had lyrics for, and then I'll just reformat them to fit with the music. So I'll have ideas, and that I can just kind of twist it around the riffs. Um, yeah, I really enjoy it, man. And then singing, it's the first band I've really ever sang being the sole singer in. You know, I've done backups and vocal parts and Waste, you know, the whole time. But yeah, I just threw myself into it, man. It's never something I planned on being a front man, but I'm digging it, you know.
I was going to say, are you enjoying the spotlight?
Yeah, I don't look at it as like the spotlight, you know. I look at it like I'm still, you know, playing an instrument up there. I got my hands full, so it's, you know, if I'm running around, it's like okay. But the fact that I play bass and sing makes it a little easier for me.
Considering your busy schedule of touring shows, creating music, what do you do in your off time? Do you even have off time?
No, I always stay on the move, man. Like I'm going to LA next week. Like I'm working on this film that I wrote with Norman Cabrera. He did the Right for Exorcism video. He did Slime and Punishment and Electrified Brain videos for Waste. He's a practical effects wizard. Like he worked for Rick Baker back in the 80s, and in his own right, he's become, you know, one of the premier like effects guys out in LA, and he's really one of my best friends now. So we wrote a script together over the pandemic, an idea that I've had for over 10 years called Exit Stage Death. It's going to be like a heavy metal horror movie. So with my downtime is still projects, man. I'm still, you know, I'm writing. I want to make this movie. I want to see it through. So that's my next goal in life, is to hopefully direct it and
I was
see
going to
this
ask you, are
thing
you going
come
to
to
play
life.
in it?
A cameo. I'm not trying to do everything, act in it. I'd rather just be behind the camera. And yeah, I mean, we're doing some meetings when I go out there. But you know, I love horror movies. I mean, I'm a
Me too.
collector of records and masks and horror films. And I mean, what else is there, man?
I agree, man. You're a man after my own heart, I must say. Everything that you're into is pretty much everything that
So
I'm
I think,
into.
yeah, so I think you know, anyone that digs bat or, you know, or heavy metal will dig the movie too. You know, it's gonna be all the elements. I'm taking stuff from my personal life, like touring and traveling, but putting like a supernatural over the top horror feel to it. So it's gonna be something, man.
Are you going to include some bad songs on the soundtrack?
It's actually my other band, Vulture, that was kind of on hiatus for the last 10 years. It was really my last ditch attempt at doing an album for Vulture. So I'm getting very ambitious and making a whole film around it, because it wasn't the most successful band. So this is my last shot at it.
Your last kick of the can, like they say.
Yeah.
Well, Ryan, thank you, man. Thank you for your time today. I really appreciate talking to you, talking about the record. Under the Crooked Claw comes out May 17th on Nuclear Blast. Don't snooze. Go pick it up. This shit kicks
Yeah,
some
you can
serious
pre-order it.
ass.
You can order it now. I pre-ordered one myself just to
Uh,
see if
I'm
it
going to
comes on
put
time.
two things in the description of the video. I'm going to put the tour dates for you guys and the link to the pre-order.
Cool. And let me know if you need those. It sounds like you're on top of it though.
I'll get it from Kristen, so I'll get all the
Perfect.
information from her and I'll put it there. Once
Killer.
again, man, thanks for taking the time to talk to me about the record. All the
It was
best with the
great.
touring and all the best with the trip to Australia.
Yeah, you got it, man. And I'll share this whenever you get it up, man. So send it my way too.
I will, no problem. Take care, man.
Later, bud.